Welcome. Thank you very much. Welcome to the first in a new series of The Big Debate, coming to you live from Johannesburg on SABC2 and SABC News Channel 404, also live on SABC News Online, YouTube and Facebook. I'm Ridi Klabi. Now, take the land now. That's the view of an overwhelming majority of South Africans who took part in a big debate poll this week. Not surprising, really, given that 2/3 of South Africans are poor, living on under 50 rand a day, and 7 million go to bed hungry. But is land expropriation the answer? Will the EFF's proposal to nationalize the land lead to economic collapse, leaving our supermarket shelves empty? Is the DA right to oppose land expropriation, arguing in favor of a willing buyer, willing seller approach? What about the ANC, who want to have their cake and eat it, claiming they will expropriate land, but somehow, magically, at the same time, keep existing landowners and investors happy? Does any party have fresh ideas that can work? To discuss this, I'm joined by Ronald Lamola, ANC NEC member, Dali Mpofu, National Chair of the EFF, Thandeka Mbabama, DA Shadow Minister of Land, Mazibuko Jaha, land activist from Ndingandaba Gandoda in the Eastern Cape, Ruth Hall, land specialist from the University of the Western Cape, and Ernest Pringle of Agri-SA, representing farmers. We also have activists from the Rural Women's Movement, members of Parliament, including Togo Didiza, economists, bankers, farmers, farm workers, and rapper Mo Mulimi is here. Welcome to all of you. Okay, now, changes. For the first time on The Big Debate, we invite you at home to post your comments online, but also to vote. You have to vote for the land plan that you support. Is it the EFF's nationalize the land, the ANC's, well, do it, but protect the economy, or the DA's willing buyer, willing seller? The number to dial is *134 *707#, or visit bigdebate.live/vote. The phone call is totally free. Your posts will appear on the screen and we'll get the poll results at the end of the show. But before we start our debate on land, take a look at this.
Errol April is a former MK fighter. For him, fruit farming is a long stretch from explosives and bombs. In 2013, he received over 200 hectares of agricultural land from the government.
The sentiments of black people can't farm, we should throw it out the window. We shouldn't talk about it anymore.
More surprising than Errol's success as an apple and pear farmer is his view on land expropriation.
If it is a 211 hectares and I only farm on 45 hectares, what would be the reason for me to say no, that my workers can't have some of this land? It should be given to the workers because the Freedom Charter says so.
Errol's views contrast with thousands of landowners who oppose amending the constitution to accelerate land reform.
If you take land from the white people and you give it to the black people, that's a racist act.
During colonialism and apartheid, black South Africans were driven from over 90% of the land. In 1994, the ANC promised to return 30%, but progress has been slow, partly due to the high cost of buying back the land. Today, white individual landowners still own 20 times more rural land than their black counterparts.
Let us come together and agree on this noble, historic and human call to expropriate land without compensation for equal redistribution.
The EFF's call in 2018 to take land without paying for it grabbed South Africa's attention. The ANC felt the pressure and changed its policy to support land expropriation without compensation. Not all economists are impressed.
It's not a desired approach, and that view is informed by the fact that for any improvements in the economy, you require investments.
To those who are investing in our country, that they should have no fear that their land and property is going to be expropriated.
Despite the president's reassurances, critics remain worried about the impact land expropriation may have.
There's already been studies that's found that, for example, the value of agricultural land in the country has declined significantly just in the last year. Why? Because people who own land want to sell it, but people don't want to buy it.
The food will cost a great deal more, and we're likely to see the poor suffering even more in terms of food inflation and the inability to afford what they need.
But most farm workers struggle to feed their families already. Farm worker Aletta Muller says some of the land should be used by local people to feed themselves instead of producing cash crops for sale overseas.
My droom is ek 'n stukkie grond kan kry en ek en my family kan boere op en met groente.
Land activist Mazibuko Jaga believes that expropriation is less of a threat to the economy than inequality.
Right now, the economy is being harmed in a great way by people not having access to land, not having secure tenure in the land they occupy, and the land being dominated by a small group of white commercial farmers.
The DA has taken up the issue of secure tenure. They argue that people must have individual title deeds over land. This is a challenge to customary land ownership. The Ingonyama Trust in KZN is custodian of 3 million hectares given to it by the apartheid regime. Despite complaints that rural women face discrimination, traditional leaders are defiant.
The 13% that is under the leaders of our people, the traditional leaders, we are not going to touch that land.
Back in Greyton, Errol and his workers have a message for politicians and white farmers.
We know it's elections. We must not use it as an election tool. We must use it as a tool which gives high morale to South African people.
Een grote vorm zal goed wees voor mij en mijn familie en de gemeenschap. Dat zal bij goed wees. En daardoor kan ons werkskip die wat te werk heeft.
So white farmers should not be afraid. They should look the thing squarely and correctly and saying that it is time for us to share.
All right, let's start our debate. Ronald Lamula of the ANC. Errol also warns that political parties should not use the land issue for political points and games. It sounds as if that's what you as the ANC have done. Apart from the fact that you capitulated to the EFF's call for expropriation without compensation, your president is traversing the length and breadth of the globe, assuring investors, assuring traditional leadership and chiefs, yet you tell your voters that you will expropriate without compensation. You're not serious about this?
No, we're not electioneering. We can't use land to electioneer. It's an imported tool socially for our people and also economically.
When did you find that out in 25 years of history?
Remember, if we're electioneering, you could blame us in 1994. There was the PAC in 1994. It's not the EFF to start today. The PAC was putting pressure for the land issue to be expropriated without compensation in 1994. And the ANC still in 1994 said there must be mixture of ownership. There must be the state that is able to own the land. The people must be able to own the land. And the private individual must still be able to own the land, including communal land. The issue of our economy, it's a mixed economy. So because South Africa is a mixed economy, we need to also have the ownership that mirrors our economy. Because if you have an ownership that does not mirror the economy, you will not be able to function either socially or as an economy.
Fair
so
enough,
it is not
mixed
for the
economy,
first time
but
that there's
how
a
are you
land
going to
debate.
expropriate and keep investors happy at the same time?
We are going to do it in certain defined circumstances, which was defined by the Ready to Govern document of the ANC. It has spoken about a vacant land. It spoke about land held purely for speculation. It has spoken about land that is not being used. And Errol spoke about that. And it shows the example of the land that is not being used, which is here in South Africa, which you can be able to expropriate.
EFF, you talking about nationalization in your speeches, but a careful look at your manifesto, you're talking about government custodianship. And you say that is going to happen gradually, not the now that you claim in your manifesto. Where do you stand?
No, I think that's a mistake that has been made by certain analysts. There is no shift. We talk about state ownership and custodianship. There's no contradiction there. The land was owned by the people as a whole. The Freedom Charter that the ANC claims to believe in says that the wealth of the country must be restored to the people. That means that before that it was owned collectively by the people. So it's a simple distinction between us and the position of the ANC and the DA. They believe in individual private ownership of land. We believe in collective ownership by all South Africans. So theirs is not a mixed economy, it's a mixed up economy.
It's like social. Is it socialism? Is it socialism? I mean, that's what economists are saying. They're saying a few things are going to happen.
Communal ownership of land in South Africa.
We'll get to that in just a moment. Agriculture is going to collapse. Our economy will suffer. The land itself is going to lose its value. And then we're going to be like Zimbabwe and Venezuela queuing for days for just medicine and bread. Are you listening to that at all?
Yeah. No, those are scare tactics. You see, for example, the thing about Zimbabwe is the most nonsensical comparison. We talk about collective ownership by the people of South Africa as a whole, black and white. How do you compare that to some marauding so-called war veterans who go and kill people and take land and so on? Those are just scaremongering tactics.
We have a corrupt state as well. How can you trust them to do what is just?
I agree fully with the audience. The state is corrupt. But listen to this.
We're attending to that corruption.
No, you're not attending to it.
We're attending to that corruption.
No, Musasa must wait.
Dealing with corruption
let's just the point about corruption. You see, corruption.
Okay, give him a chance to finish. There are other panelists we have to go to. Okay, you'll respond shortly.
The issue about corruption is that to stop corruption, you must combat corruption. You don't stop corruption by changing the economic system. For example, if you want to stop corruption of traffic cops, you stop corruption in the traffic cops. You don't say, let's privatize the traffic cops.
Okay. Let's hear from the DA. I called it willing buyer, willing seller deliberately because you're saying, as the Democratic Alliance, you have to have compensation. It sounds like the ANC's tried and failed willing buyer, willing seller model. And I'm curious, where are you going to get the money to compensate all these farmers? How realistic is your plan?
Really, we are not saying that we believe in willing buyer, willing seller.
Well, expropriate and compensate is...
What we are saying is that we must redress the past, the injustices of the past, and I think all political parties agree that that must be done. But the difference between us, the EFF and the ANC, is that we believe in individual rights. We believe that people must own their own land. As a black person myself, I would not like to have the state own my property.
What do you do with the landless then? Because you're talking about title deeds. I mean, that works for people who've been living on that land for many, many years. It doesn't quite work for those who don't have any place.
It does, Ridi. It does. It does work. It does work because as the DA, we believe in land reform according to the prescripts of the Constitution. We believe in redistribution. We believe in land tenure security. We believe in all three of the programs of land reform. It's just that we've got to apply it properly because that's where the ANC failed.
Mazibuko, help us out here. Help us out here. Does she have a point that we should look out for the individual? The individual must be empowered. And I know the DA has also raised concerns about corruption. Are we right to be concerned about those issues?
The view of handing land over to private ownership is entirely wrong. The world over, wherever there's been privatization of land, it has been captured by a few ultimately. Yes, our state is corrupt. It is our state. We must fix it. That is absolutely important. Land is a public good. It belongs to all of us, and it must be held in perpetuity. So we need land reform that does not privatize land. That is why then the role of the state is important. But over and above that, tenure must be secure. Rights of people must be clearly defined. That's absolutely crucial. That's where then the discussion must take place. And then also questions of what happens after the land is redistributed.
What do you mean by secure tenure?
For example, there must be protection against mining interests, which the DA and the ANC support. Communities' rights to land must be protected. That's a fight in Kolobeni. Further, the role of traditional leaders must not be abused such that the rights of communities are affected negatively. That's very important.
Okay, hold that thought. I'll give you a chance. When we come back, Ruth, Ernest, Togo Didiza, you're all going to speak in just a moment. Have you made up your mind, by the way, which land plan is best? You've heard our panelists define it, correct it, debate it. Vote now and send us your thoughts. The results so far show almost 60% are in support of nationalizing the land. Only 13% are in favor of willing buyer, willing seller. Now, land is not just about food. It's about dignity and belonging and the fight for justice. After the break, we talk to rapper turned farmer Mo Mulimi. Listen to this.
The bravery utla babona kamo kwanto le hao babona ka sereke balananta ke di khalega ba panta bo malume meri ba go tsoga pele meropa ya go sisa thele Ndumo Kameli le baletse le batho ba sele di betše nka be ke le di bega mo mererong ya kgololosego le ditshimega It's the beginning of how you become a man. We lost leadership the day we lost honey. I hope it's worth it for the people who took the money. They took the blood rest for the army. But in the squalor we were closely going hungry. Yeah, what it takes to run the country. Politicians look but smell funky. They keep taking back, we never hear them donkey.
Get the facts first.
In 1994, ek dink was ons almal was ook baie excited geweest.
For South Africa, art was never a good thing.
From a footballing point of view, there was never a separation.
Get to the truth.
There's still some serious issues in South Africa.
Maar ek dink die regering kan regtig probeer om harder te werk om
ke apartheid in Sutlile ke le ke swa ke batho ba rena ba democracy batho ba batsho e se makgowa.
See what it all really means.
Ek is geel want dit is die kleur in die verkeerslig wat vir jou sê wees versigtig.
I still give South Africa a red.
We are somewhere in between.
We're giving our democracy a green for sure. We're very happy.
Democracy Gauge, weekdays at 5:30 on SABC News, Channel 404.
On Trends Travel, we bring you a full guide on all things lifestyle related. With so much to discover, we give you comprehensive reviews of places to visit, music, travel, and food. We also explore the arts, whether on or off stage. All this and more, be sure to tune into Trends Travel, Saturdays at 5:30 p.m.
In a UN report, scientists say climate change is getting worse.
1/3 of our food sources for the population come out of the ocean.
We spoke to people who have been directly affected.
We have lost a lot of cattle. Gemsbok Vlakte, Tosca gebied and Jakkalskop, everywhere you will see there's animals dying.
I've lost 2 of my cattle this January.
Africa's demand for clean drinking water is rising.
Drinking water is a top priority.
The next day when the water comes back, it's dirty.
I have implemented a level 5 water restriction, effective immediately.
Environmentalists seek solution to preserve the planet.
This is Cape Kirpa, which is also one of the endemic species that is only found within the Western Cape, so it occurs nowhere else in the world except in our water systems.
We are at the forefront of Africa's tech discussion.
We're already planning for the 5G spectrum to be licensed by 2020.
In Mauritius, for fiber migration, we had a strategy. On network, we have gadgets, robots, and more.
We focus on investing in entrepreneurs and technology in emerging markets.
There's technology and social media news on network with me, Spumelele Zondi, every Saturday at 8:30 p.m. and every Sunday at 5:30 p.m.
Welcome back to the big debate on land, live on SABC2 and SABC News Channel 404. Why is land so bound up with race in South Africa? Well, we just heard rapper Momulimi singing about the struggle for land. Let's talk to him. He's actually a farmer and you grew up in a farm. Why is a young man like you singing about farming and land?
With me, it's a natural progression. You know, farming is a generational business, you know. So I'm so fortunate that my parents raised me on a farm while I and my siblings together. So the love of farming came natural over the years as I was growing up. So I mean that's a very serious component to agriculture as it is.
And you are in your own fight as well. I mean things are not perfect. Your
Yes.
father, if I understand, has been leasing that land out for about 38. It's been leased to your family for over 38 years. Tell us about some of the struggles that you are experiencing.
I myself have applied for state land for the last 10 years. I have proof to that end, and both in Northwest and in the Free State province, and I've had no joy. But fortunately, because my father occupies a piece of land, I've continued with my business. The downside to that is because we do not have a title deed, we do not have surety So we cannot raise funds to improve.
But you're wearing the T-shirts of the guys who are responsible for that.
Look, the ANC is our government of the day, and because there's 60 million of us, it must serve all of us equally, and therefore does not mean that each and every one of us must become rich. So I myself have had a lot of help from the Department of Agriculture in the Northwest region.
Now you tell us. Now you tell us. Thank you. Thank you very much. All right, let's speak to the Khoisan, represented here by the Chief. Let's hear from you. Talk to us about what your struggles are as the Khoisan people. The way we are handling the land debate in South Africa, do you feel it's inclusive? Do you feel that your grievances are being heard?
When it comes to the land, Ainkwas, Gangans, the land is sacred. We're missing the point. Government is just another form of a big business. The land is sacred. And what people don't speak about is the whole question of when you understand land, you understand custodianship and stewardship. What does that mean? Nobody is speaking about that. Where does the land come from? From the Great Spirit Creator. And
who
therefore,
owns this land? Who owns this land? Who should own this land right now in South Africa?
Nobody but the Great Spirit Creator owns it. We can only be the custodians. And therefore, once you use the land, you then become accountable. And that is where stewardship comes in. And that means, stewardship means, and I think for 25 years we're missing the pot. Stewardship means you get the land and you leave it to the people that's coming behind you in a better state.
What do we do with the currently landless now?
The problem is we have connected it with money. This system called capitalism started with mercantilism. We were colonized.
Let's give AfriForum a chance. Let's give AfriForum a chance. Let's give AfriForum a chance. You are hearing the history. You are hearing how young people, black people, want a place, belonging, recognition, a country that represents their dreams and their aspirations. I've just remembered, Kali, as I was looking at you just now, that you were one of the founders of the Dinokeng scenarios, which was really such a positive initiative to map out the scenarios that we hope for our country. That was over 10 years ago. Surely, justice and land distribution, land restitution must have been uppermost in those scenarios. Did you think about it at all? Where do you place it?
Well, I think it's very important that we address poverty in this country. It's one of the biggest challenges that we all have a responsibility to take on. If you look specifically at land, former President Kgalema Motlanthe did a study, and he said why restitution and land reform failed was because of corruption and lack of capacity. And those issues need to be addressed. We're in favor of restitution. If people lost their land in a way that was not acceptable, it must be restituted. But what is happening now, we're looking for the problem in the wrong place. The problem is not the current systems we have. It won't help us to change the constitution. It would actually worsen the situation. And I think we should look at the broader picture. I don't have land. The vast majority of AfriForum members, only 7% of our members are farmers. 93% don't have land. But what we do realize is if you don't respect property rights, you get
but
disinvestment.
Kali, do you accept that land is a race issue? I mean, the figures speak for themselves. The land audit that was published last year, it talks about 7% ownership in urban areas for black people and 1.7 white people, 23. And then I know, Ernest, you dispute some of those figures. I'll give you a chance to speak to that as well. Do you accept that it is a race issue and it is time that those who have land, and especially those who have more than what they need, must share it with the rest of the population?
Of course, we need to develop farmers from all communities, including black farmers. But we should not twist statistics. When you say, for instance, 72% of the land is owned by so-called white commercial farmers, you are only referring to 72% of 30%. At this stage, white commercial farmers only own 22% of the total area of the country. Government owns more.
Let him finish. Go, Kali, quickly. Go, Kali. Let him finish. Let him finish.
No.
Let him finish. Quickly,
No,
Kali.
no, I think people should not listen to the ANC and EFF's propaganda. They should focus on
Okay.
the reality.
Let's hear from Ernst as well. Let's hear from Ernst. You also support partially some of the argument that Kali has put forward about land ownership and the figures. And you're saying that black people actually own about 48% of the land. I don't see it where I live, but you're saying 48% based on the consortiums, based on mining, based on the value of the land and the transfer that happened when the apartheid government came to its knees. You dispute the figures. What must happen now?
Yes, our take, after our land audit was published, it was quite interesting. In Parliament, the Minister of Land Affairs was asked what were the current figures of land occupation in South Africa, not necessarily ownership. You're talking the homelands, that's land occupation. There's no real ownership of land in those areas. And he came up with a figure of 37% black occupation of land in South Africa. That puts
occupation ownership?
Occupation ownership, the lot. One
but
figure,
those are not the same thing.
Yeah.
But that's not the same thing, right?
No, it's not the same
It's
thing.
not the same
That's
thing.
The point.
Because
Actually,
farm workers are occupying their
Yeah.
land, but they don't live there and they get evicted. And we'll talk about the security of tenure bill, which has been now taken back to Parliament, and those are the people who are going to suffer the most. Very quickly finish your point. I'm bringing you in here, Ruth.
Yes. Don't forget that in the homeland areas, they also don't own the land. They occupy the land. So we're saying that if you take ownership in that, and that counts for a lot, that's 18 million hectares in South Africa. That counts for a lot of the land which is currently being occupied. And then you add to that the land that has gone into ownership, 12 million hectares on land reform.
We can't go through all the figures, but Ruth, the long and short of it is they're disputing the numbers. Is that significant to the debate? I know that you promote a rights-based approach to land ownership and the land debate. What do you say? Help us. Bring it all together for us.
Okay. What I would argue is that nobody has a good handle on the numbers, but anyone living in this country knows that racial inequality in land has not been addressed at all adequately, right? We're still in the starting blocks. 25 years into democracy, less than 10% of white-owned commercial farmland has moved into black hands. And we know that the model isn't actually right. So even if we carried on doing the same thing at scale, we're going to be messing up. Recently, the Director General of Agriculture, Forestry and Fisheries announced that they're going to put most of their money this year into supporting 450 farmers. Now, there are around 250,000 black farming households in this country who are producing for markets, and yet government is supporting a very small portion. So what I would say is we need to change the model. We need to redistribute more at scale. We need to subdivide. We need to get land in the right places, which is where people want it. In urban areas, in peri-urban areas, in the areas where farm workers have been evicted, in the areas around the communal areas where people are congested. So let's have a land reform that's targeted in terms of who should be benefiting, so that we don't just target a small elite, and let's have it specially targeted and break up big farms and use them in different ways.
I mean, Togo Didiza, there you are chairing this ad hoc committee, and yet you are a member of Parliament, you're chairing this ad hoc committee. You belong to a party that is making all sorts of promises. But in Parliament on Friday, we heard the likes of Albie Sachs, Wim Trengove, Advocate Ngubai Tlogi, actually saying that you don't need this constitutional amendment, but you've already promised your voters that you're going to do it. What's going on here?
Well, I think if we can put it this way, last year in Parliament in 2018, the EFF put a motion and amended by the ANC and other parties to actually ask a question to the citizenry. Is there a problem with Section 25 of the Constitution? Does it need to be amended or it doesn't need to be amended? And those consultations went across the country. People expressed their views, not only on the Constitution, but also on the model, as Ruth is saying, and some of the frustrations that people are experiencing with the current process of land reform. At the end of it, Parliament's Committee on Constitutional Review, in their own assessment, having listened to everybody, said we should amend the Constitution. So where we are now, having taken that collective view of what citizens are saying, We are in that process.
But you've told Bloomberg recently that it's going to be a year before we do anything. So why are you making these promises?
Remember, there is a constitutional process. We are a constitutional state. And when the EFF, ANC, and all other parties in parliament participated in that process, they participated knowingly that it has to be done in accordance with the law of
a
the
year,
land.
everybody happy? Sharp, sharp.
It's not about all of us are happy.
But
If
it's the
there was a
process,
way
it's the
of-
constitutional
You don't
process.
have a decree.
Let her finish the point because I asked the question.
You
Let her finish.
actually don't have a situation where one can wake up and decree that something must happen. There are processes, and I think all of us have agreed to be bound by those processes.
When we return, we look for positive models of land reform. And don't forget to vote for the land plan that you prefer. The results will be out shortly. Stay with us.
On the 7th of February, the season premiere of One Day Leader is coming to a TV screen near you. One Day Leader Season 7 is at 9 p.m. on SABC1 Mzansi for sure.
Judges, are you sure of your choices today?
One Day Leader, Thursdays at 9 p.m. on SABC1 Mzansi for sure.
A royal welcome, please, for a regal southern songstress, Yvonne Chaka Chaka.
When everybody wanted to be doctors and nurses, I stood up and I said I want to be white.
Oh.
The late Joe Slovo called me the Jewish Zulu.
I think it's very sad these days, or I mean, for a long while, that a lot of women
blame this on the guys because this is a plot by the women against the women.
We are socialists.
Yes, sure.
All of us.
Be intrigued by hitting topics on the couch with people of the South and stay cultivated as they grace you with cultural entertainment at its level best on stage. Make a date with Dali Tambo as he profiles everyone from all walks of life on SABC Encore DSTV channel 156.
We are at the forefront of Africa's tech discussion.
We're already planning for the 5G spectrum to be licensed by 2020.
In Mauritius, for fiber migration, we had a strategy. On network, we have gadgets, robots, and more.
We focus on investing in entrepreneurs and technology in emerging markets.
There's technology and social media news on network with Ms. Phumelele Zondi every Saturday at 8:30 p.m. and every Sunday at 5:30 p.m.
Get the facts first.
In 1994, ek dink was ons almal was ook baie excited geweest.
For South Africa, art was never a good thing.
From a footballing point of view, there was never a separation.
Get to the truth.
There's still some serious issues in South Africa.
Maar ek dink die regering kan regtig waar probeer om harder te werk om
ke apartheid in Sutlile ke le ke swa ke batho ba rena ba democracy batho ba batsho e se makgowa.
See what it all really means.
Ek is geel want dit is die kleur in die verkeerslig wat vir jou sê wees versigtig.
I still give South Africa red.
We are somewhere in between.
We're giving our democracy a green for sure. We're very happy.
Democracy Gauge, weekdays at 5:30 on SABC News, channel 404.
Welcome back to the big debate on land. Some communities are taking land restitution into their own hands, finding new models that actually work. In Mdukajani, in KwaZulu-Natal, there's a project where farm workers now own the land communally and use it to feed local people. Watch this. The land in this case was bought for the workers by a company as part of their corporate social investment. The biggest challenge, of course, for the community now is to get water for irrigation. Let's just listen.
Into esitira ngayo manje ke njoba sekuyindawo yethu sinetayitela sina everything manje sitira ngenkomo ngembuzi siyadayisa inkomo endalini siphila nje ngenkomo lasifuyile into esiphila ngayo inkomo nembuzi kakhulu asisebenzi umsebenzi awusekho.
Let's go to Emily. Emily, you won an award in Brazil. You are involved in agriculture, and you're actually saying that you don't want to be producing for big commercial market. You don't want to be exporting. You just want to feed your communities, and you lack some crucial support for your projects. Tell us about that.
Let me start by saying it was 2020 in Brazil, 2012. I won the award on the condition of good practices.
Using organic seeds rather than...
Yes, rather than the indigenous seed that we got from my granny, from my mom, and I'm still reserving some. And why we did that, it's because this comes from one generation to another, promoting the culture of farming, promoting good practices of farming, good nutritious food. Not food security where we have a bulk of food. Look at the retailer's shop.
So you want to feed the community? I'm
talking of food sovereignty, the choice, the right to food. And secondly, as a beneficiary of land reform and a restitution, Mem Didiza handed over the 2 portions in Puampla sliding back, where we were farming peaches, farming and exporting. But now, through the land reform that is dragging, there is post-settlement support. We don't even see it with an eye. We can't access those recovery funds.
Okay.
So that's why we are staying small. I don't call myself small, but we will put it small-scale farmers. And at Lamusa, we are promoting that, especially women and youth.
Indeed.
Use your yard that you've got to produce, and we have our own markets. On the R25 and 11, you go there with your scuttle and your wheelbarrow, and in 5 minutes it's bought.
Okay,
it's done.
I want to bring
and
in
lastly,
Cass
let me
from
say,
let's just pause for a little. Theo, Cass, I want you to come in here. What we're hearing is that the support and the investment in this kind of project that has been described is lacking, that we are focused on the big landowners, we are focused on the big markets and not the people who need to survive right here, right now. Why are we not investing? Why is the private sector and bankers not supporting these initiatives and Mo Molini's
I think those are the issues we need to discuss.
We are discussing, so what do you say?
It's not just the big guys. We have projects that are working. We have projects that are successful. The question we should be asking is, in our land reform initiatives, what do we do to enable projects like that to get the support?
What do you think we should do?
So for instance, speaking from the banking community, we can finance people that have security of tenure. We can finance people where we can actually have some security over what we're financing. Now,
okay,
if that's...
Hold on. This is interesting. This is important.
And that's because we lend your money. Your money.
It's your money that's being lent. Okay.
So if we don't have security, if we don't get the money back in some way, then that money doesn't come.
It's not safe to lend it to small farmers who have no security.
I don't know the lady's particular circumstance.
Yeah,
all I'm saying is that whether you're a small farmer or a big farmer, if there's some security that the bank can take.
You want collateral. You want collateral.
Yeah,
but the ANC must take some responsibility for this. Hold on. The ANC must take some responsibility for this. 2002, you amended the mandate of the Land Bank, the Land and Agriculture Bank Act, where you're actually saying that the bank must be a commercial bank and it must support farmers against security. Who's got security in this country of ours?
Yeah, and I think if I can
Former Minister of Agriculture is going to speak to this.
If I can come in ready, the amendment of that legislation was as a result of the court case by the 4 banks who were actually arguing that the prerogative of Land Bank and the preferences that they were having were actually undesirable for the commercial sector. No. So it wasn't, yes, it was
what an amendment
as a result of that legislation.
I mean, that's ANC capitulating. The Land Bank was formed for generations. It was supporting Afrikaner farmers, white farmers. And people were renting land for R1 for a year.
So they must do
and
the
now
same.
Suddenly, introduced security. And she says that it was at the behest of the banks. That's exactly what we suspected. Not on behalf of the people.
Let it finish. Let it finish. Finish. Carry on. We can pick you up.
So policy is driven by the banks.
No.
Okay, finish.
Dali, as a lawyer, you know very well the rule of law. When a decision has been made by the courts, you comply. So you
Mazibuko, what do you say here? I mean, you've got something similar. What do you say here? Theo, I'm coming to you next.
There's no such rule of law.
Okay, let Mazibuko speak. No. Let's give other people speak. Let's get other people to speak. We're going to run out of time. Mazibuko, hold on. This is very important. Let's go to someone else. You're members of the same party. Let's give someone a chance. I'm coming. Those are artificial. Those are artificial boundaries. Those are artificial boundaries. Those are artificial boundaries. Quickly.
What former Minister Didiza is saying is basically the ANC is not prepared to build a public sector banking institution in this country and also to promote cooperative banking. We don't have to depend on private banks to finance farming.
Exactly.
Public sector banking and cooperative banking is the way.
Theo, quickly.
What Dali is attributing to the Land Bank.
Okay, listen to this.
Was not the Land Bank. There was a special financing mechanism that brought South African agriculture to where it is now, and it was called the Landboukredietraad.
The Agricultural Credit Board.
Nowhere in the world have we seen successful transformation of smallholder agriculture to profitable agriculture without longer-term financing that what is available in the market at lower rates than what is available in the market. What we need now is for these smallholders to be organized in cooperatives. And these cooperatives...
But they already are. That's what they say.
They are not. What is being called cooperatives
Let's listen.
I've seen it myself.
Okay, everybody just listen. Let it finish.
I went onto their farms. I've listened to their frustrations. They are delivered to the state as a bank through recap. And the state is not a good bank. We need a specialized institution.
Who's going to make that happen?
Such as the agricultural credit.
Okay. All right, after the break, we see how you at home voted in our poll. It's your last chance to vote.
It is worrying indeed when any publication has to close down. So it is really getting tough from the point of view of lack of sufficient readership to the issue of social media.
How influential is the media still? Twitter, Facebook are influencing people far more than mainstream newspapers nowadays.
The media has greater responsibility compared to Twitter. The media itself is governed by certain codes and it must abide by those codes.
Threatened, attacked and killed. Journalists are also being imprisoned in record numbers around the world.
If you mention and name particular journalists, you actually put them at risk.
We were media activists, and I believe we still are today. A journalist is an endangered species today.
Watch Media Monitor Sundays at 9 a.m.
Welcome back to the big debate on the SABC. Now we asked you to vote on whose land plan is best. Did you finish voting? In a few moments, we'll see the results of our poll. But first, we do want to hear from our studio audience. But before we do that, you, Ronald Lamula, I posed a question about the Land and Agriculture Bank Act, and we spoke about that a minute ago. But the most important thing is the evictions of the farm dwellers. They are not protected. And this is a piece of legislation that keeps going back. It's stuck at the NCOP. So if the ANC is saying that it is concerned about the landless, surely you should start with the tools that are already available to you.
Yeah, we have already done that. There are various legislations.
Security of Tenure Amendment Bill, that's the one I'm talking about.
There are various legislations aimed at protecting farm dwellers and farm workers, Esther. There's also a legislation that is aimed to ensure that some of them that are already residing there must be able to get some of the farms. And that's why the Department of Rural Development now is going to give about 20,000 farm dwellers and farm workers land title deeds to those areas where they are staying. But on the blended issue, on the issue of helping small scale black farmers,
let him finish.
The Minister of Finance has put 3.5 billion to the land bank to help black farmers to blend and bridge the issue of security. He has done so. He has announced
in fact,
3.5 billion.
Hold on. In fact, I can say that on the budget speech, when it comes to land redistribution, the budget has been lowered.
No,
6.7 to 6.2 and then 5.7. So that's not quite. Ruth, can you come in here? And Theo actually had a point, if we can address that issue as well. Okay. We don't have time for the long answer. Yes, Ruth. The DA hasn't spoken either.
If we look at how commercial farming grew, if we look at how white commercial farming grew through the 20th century, it was through state intervention to deal with the poor white problem. And essentially, in many ways, it was like socialism for whites. Yes. The state subsidized, the state bailed out, the state regulated, there was trade protection. Yep. All of these systems were dismantled during the 1980s and during the 1990s. So it means that where black people are getting land through land reform, they don't have all the support. They're competing against not just individual white farmers, but increasingly big agribusiness, right? So we need to think of an alternative model, and I think it's wrong to say that the state has not been able to, since 1996, has not been able to expropriate. The Constitution clearly says you can expropriate for land reform purposes. So it's been a political choice not to use those powers. I think that the final point that I would make is that the property clause actually says something that we've never really used. It says that citizens have the right to gain access to land on an equitable basis. So that means a right to land redistribution. If you're landless, the state has an obligation to you. But we've never worked out what that means. How do you as a citizen go to the state and say, I'm landless in an informal settlement, how are you going to help me? There's no procedure for people to invoke the rights. So I think the problem is not that the state hasn't had enough power, it's that citizens haven't had enough power.
Let me hear from the DA quickly before we go to our audience members. We approach, or the DA at least, you're approaching expropriation without compensation as though it's never been done anywhere in the world. I'm thinking about two countries here. South Korea did that. They expropriated from the Japanese landowners, and you saw community ownership, family propriety, all going up, and the middle class, social mobility actually being achieved. Brazil amended its constitution, it was 1988. Yes. And what was important with Brazil, it reminds me of your project, it was land, if it doesn't serve a social function, if you've got far more than what you need, there is going to be occupation of unused land. So it's been done before and it has worked. So why are you afraid to embrace it as the DA?
The DA does not say that they don't believe in expropriation. What we are saying is we believe, we believe in expropriation.
Let her finish. I can't hear my director, I can't hear the speaker.
We believe in expropriation according to the prescripts of the Constitution, because it is in the Constitution.
But if you need to change the Constitution to take into account the realities,
why should we change the Constitution when
that's what the DA says? Where's the microphone? Let's go to the audience. You ask your question. Ask your question, yes.
No, you guys listen to what you want to hear. Yes. As long as it's done according to the Constitution.
Number two. Okay, just two questions.
Why uhulumente enikezela ngomhlaba wethu kwindoda enye inkosi ibe ingumhlaba wethu abe esithi uza kuyekeza umhlaba wethu ngaphandle kwembuyekezo?
Okay, let me
why amakhosikazi engenalungelo lokulawula?
Okay, this is important. The question, I've got Xolobeni in mind. You are saying, why is the government negotiating and giving away land without listening to the people who live on that land? And we know that there was a court ruling on that particular case that the government can't do that. It was with the Xolobeni matter. And then she raised a very important matter about patriarchy and women not being protected. Is the ANC government in alliance alliance with the chiefs, with traditional leadership. Contra lesser, do you accept the accusation that you don't take the rights of women, Basei Lalin? Contra lesser.
Okay, in the interest of time, let me start off by saying that the primary issue
A question has been asked, let it be answered.
Yeah, the primary issue here that we need to address is that the land needs to be returned to the African majority. Everything
No,
that
let's
we are
address her issue,
I am
not the
coming to that
primary
question.
issue. We don't have
I am
time. There are
coming
lots
to that
of people.
question.
Her specific
All-
question.
Yeah, all
Let him answer.
all the matters.
We agree on that, but her specific question,
All right.
especially about the
No.
rights of women.
No. We, as Africans, our culture is not patriarchal. We have nothing like that. The land, patriarchy came here with people of foreign origin.
Let's address her
Don't
situation.
The
Are you
land,
gonna- Okay.
the land.
Okay, hold on. You need to answer. Okay, the women disagree with you. The women are not experiencing a lack of patriarchy in those communities.
A traditional leader is only a custodian in a
I'll give you
traditional
a chance to
community.
sit down, please.
The traditional leader, who is a chief, is only the custodian of that community. And the land...
Okay, we're going to end the debate because we actually can't hear what anyone is saying. We can't hear what anyone is saying. You must address the women's rights issues. And I'm not sure whether I should be going to a commercial break or if we should be continuing. Okay, we go to a commercial break. We'll be back in a moment.
Get the facts first.
In 1994, ek dink was ons almal was ook baie excited geweest.
For South Africa, art was never a good thing.
From a footballing point of view, there was never a separation.
Get to the truth.
There's still some serious issues in South Africa.
Maar ek dink die regering kan regtig waar probeer om harder te werk om
ke apartheid in Sutlile ke le ke sola ke batho ba rena ba democracy batho ba batsho e seng makgowa.
See what it all really means.
Ek is geel, want dit is die kleur in die verkeerslig wat vir jou sê wees versigtig.
I still give South Africa red.
We are somewhere in between.
We're giving our democracy a green for sure. We're very happy.
Democracy Gauge, weekdays at 5:30 on SABC News, Channel 404.
On the 7th of February, the season premiere of One Day Leader is coming to a TV screen near you. One Day Leader Season 7 is at 9 p.m. on SABC1 Mzansi for sure.
Judges, are you sure of your choices today?
One Day Leader, Thursdays at 9 p.m. on SABC1 Mzansi for sure.
Hello again from the Big Debate live in Johannesburg. We're talking about land expropriation. In a few weeks, the parties gathered here will be looking for your vote in the election. So what have they learned so far today and what's their message to voters? We're not going to be able to have a debate because people are undressing and this is chaotic. There's a lot of anger, there's a lot of emotions. There are a lot of views. We are giving you a chance and nobody's sitting down. So let's just see what happens. Ma'am, listen to me. There's an hour to go. We have not finished the show. Sit down. I will give you a chance. Okay? Sit down. Okay. Okay.
One nation!
Okay,
First nation!
Listen to me. There's an hour to go before we wrap up the show. The show is not finished. We've got an hour to go before. I will. There's an hour to go. There's an hour to go. There's an hour. There's an hour to go. There's an hour to go before the end of the show. There's an hour to go. There's an hour to go before we end the show. Everybody, okay, everybody please sit down. Please sit down. Do you want to speak? Do you want to speak? You have to speak. I'm going to come to you. Sit down. Okay, listen. You have to sit down. There's an hour to go, okay? Go sit down. Please go sit down. Go sit down. Go sit down. You said you wanted to speak, but you are not here speaking. Come to me. Come stand here. Come stand here. Come. What? Okay, hold on. Breathe. Thank you. Don't go. Stand here. Let's hear her. Thank you so very much, all of you. Thank you for your heart and speaking from your heart and singing. The question that was not addressed, that's a very important thing. We want to sing, we want to express ourselves, but if you say you've got a grievance, we're going to leave here without addressing it if we don't actually listen. What do you want to say?
I want to say, when it comes to land, is the mic on?
You are on, speak.
Okay. When it comes to land, the Nguni's, let me say the black people, always say it's their land. Everything is theirs. But what about us? We are the first nation that was here first, the Khoisan.
Okay, we've heard you.
And the Bushmen.
We've heard you. You've made your point. I know there's a lot more you can say, but the nature of a TV debate doesn't allow us. We've got your point. Does it help the historic debate around who owned it, who came first, how far back do we go? Carry on speaking, the microphone can pick you up. Mazibuko?
The Khoi and the San are without a doubt
You want to listen to the answer. You ask a
the
question,
first
you listen to
people
the answer.
of a country called South Africa. But the country called South Africa is a new invasion. All of us Africans are the first people in Africa. The Khoi and the San are part of black people. Their demands to belong together with the rest of us. Land redistribution has to address all our issues. The Khoi, the San, the so-called Ngilus.
Okay, I want to hear from you, because Usei Lalini now, there was a cry here that I think was not addressed. Your thoughts on women, and you as well, Ruth, you focus on that as well. Your thoughts on women. Contralesa says patriarchy is not African, we don't have those problems.
We do not agree with Contralesa. The rural women we work with in Kaiskamahoek and elsewhere in the Eastern Cape suffer untold problems at the hands of the chieftaincy. Those problems must be addressed. Government has not provided secure tenure to rural women in this country to this day. And that issue is on the table, has to be addressed effectively.
We'll continue our debate in the second hour on YouTube. Land divides the nation. For the majority of poor black South Africans, it offers the promise of a better life and the restoration of dignity. For others, it is an asset whose value must be protected. Either way, without land, none of us can eat or find a place to sleep. Who has the best vision for our future? You decide. And don't forget to vote in the elections on the 8th of May. Watch the second hour of the big debate online now on SABC on Wednesday at 10 p.m. From me, Ridi, goodbye to this current audience. We continue.
On the 7th of February, the season premiere of One Day Leader is coming to a TV screen near you. One Day Leader Season 7 is at 9 p.m. on SABC 1 Mzansi for sure.
Judges, are you sure of your choices today?
One Day Leader, Thursdays at 9 p.m. on SABC 1 Mzansi for sure.
On Trends Travel, we bring you a full guide on all things lifestyle related. With so much to discover, we give you comprehensive reviews of places to visit, music, travel, and food. We also explore the arts, whether on or off stage. All this and more, be sure to tune into Trends Travel, Saturdays at 5:30 p.m.
welcome to the last half hour of The Full View. I am Tshepiso Makwetla. Thank you so much for joining us. Here are the headlines tonight. President Cyril Ramaphosa sends South Africa's condolences to families of the victims of this morning's Ethiopian airline crash. A rain does not deter supporters attending the launch of the Inkatha Freedom Party's election manifesto. The Democratic Alliance calls for criminal charges against those implicated in the mismanagement of the country's intelligence services. New Zealander Sam Gaze wins the Cape Town Cycle Tour, followed by South Africans Jason Oosthuizen and Clint Hendricks. And in the women's race, Investec Songo rider Cherise Villet.
Muruka puoma fuku muthatheledi muroka wa pula tsa poko di popota o khalimile ka mafuku wa itesa.
Okay, welcome back. The second hour of the big debate on land. It deteriorated, of course. There are lots of emotions here. We're picking it up once again because I think there are very fundamental and important points that were made that were not heard and that were not debated properly. So in the next hour, I do appeal to our audience members to just exercise some courtesy and also understand that there are so many of you. It's impossible that everybody will speak equally the same time. And secondly, it is natural that the people who will be challenged the most are the decision makers and the political parties because they are the ones who have these electoral promises. So a lot of the questions are directed at them and that's why they speak far more than everybody else. We're going to our audience now. There's a lady called Sadi who has a question. Where are you sitting, Sadi? Where are you sitting? Okay. Where is she? Where's the microphone? Baby. Where's baby? There's baby. Where's the microphone? The microphone for baby. We need the other microphone to go around as well. Constance, good evening to you. You have a lot to say as well.
Good evening, everybody.
Can you stand, please, ma?
Okay.
Okay, let's hear what baby has to say. Me, baby.
Good evening, everybody. I'm baby from Lebelo CPA in Mokopane. I want to start by saying Pansy with the Bantustan bill. Pansy. Because I'm a victim. I should have been very far, but I'm in my 70s now. I'm dying. 2, in my place, in my farm, we were given 4 pieces of place. We were evicted from the 4 pieces of place. I'm the first beneficiary. Now, when the government compensated us and made us to know that we've got land as the claimants, we were given only 1. And I'm sure the person who promised me that the other 3 pieces I'm going to get is here and she knows herself. Yeah. She knows herself.
Hold on.
As big as I am.
Okay, hold on.
As
Let
big
us finish.
as I am.
Finish it, my baby, so we can move.
I'm being taught ke botjwa maka. Motho ra nna re ke tlo go fa di-piece tse ding tse 4 tse ka re why a re tšhelete a e teng tla re he tlile re tla hofa tšhelete ile di-guptaseng ka jeko bana ba rona ga ba tsene sekolo.
Okay, all right. So, me baby says that she only got a quarter of what was due to her and what she was promised. And she, no, mommy, I'm just wrapping up. And then you also say the person who promised you this is here. Wait, let mama speak.
I'm too big for such. I'm an old lady.
But you want an answer
Let
today?
me tell you, not an answer. The person concerned is going to answer me today because I feel...
Should we give her the microphone to answer? Where is she?
I want my title deeds. I want my title deeds. On the 22nd of March, I'll be 70 years full. I want my title deeds. Nah? I want my compensation from that. And from there...
How long have you been on this journey, Mama?
5 years full.
5 years.
And the other thing that kills us is this changing of parliamentary sections. They hold this portfolio, they change. They hold this portfolio.
Who must we address your grievances to? I don't want to make a mistake.
You see?
I don't want to make a mistake.
People
who must
who
answer?
gave us the land know themselves. My mouth is very clear to say some of these things.
Is it you, Mr. Diza?
Aha!
Yes. A question has been asked, it has to be answered.
Yeah.
Can I just also emphasize? Mama there raised some life and death matters for her. So when you say we must move to the next question, you're saying her question is not important. She's directed a question and I'm asking the person, I think it's you. She's talking about you. You made promises that you didn't fulfill?
Well, I'm happy that Mama in her own statement did say that, you know, the rotation of ministers when the parliament term finishes may be a challenge. Yes, no, I'm not shifting the blame.
Let her answer.
During the time when I was the Minister of Land Affairs, yes, we settled the case of Mkopane. One piece at the time was the one that was transferred. The others were not transferred because, as she say, at that time the acquisition of that land had not gone through.
Do you feel her pain, though? That's my issue.
I
do you feel the pain, and what are you going to do about it?
I do feel her pain indeed, like any other person who don't have a piece of land in this country.
What happens now?
Remember, ministers don't appoint themselves. And when you are moved, you can't dictate to another minister how to deal with issues.
When you get into government, it's going to be just as hard.
No.
Okay, all right. When you get into government, you'll have to deal, if you get into government, you'll have to deal in the matters. It's going to be just as hard for you. No. We can't have, we're going to have one. We've spoken to the chief, we've spoken to the lady from the same community. I'm going to give another person a chance. We've got to go to other communities as well. I will insist on that. No, you answer me the question. After the question. No, you answer me now. Yeah. I said when you get into government, if you get in, you're going to have to deal with all these historic issues.
Oh yes, no, obviously.
Let him answer.
Yeah, obviously any new government in South Africa is going to have to inherit the mess that has been caused by the ANC. That's obvious, yeah. And that mess, so the people, yeah. So, okay, so.
That's not relevant here. That's not relevant here.
Shut up.
You either get answers or not. Carry on. You can pick your
so the people, so they are saying the ANC has not messed up. I mean, is there anyone? Order. So I don't think ready.
Okay, finish your point.
Let me finish my point.
It's not relevant here. You can have that debate later. We're talking about land now.
Cheap mind. Yeah.
Can we focus on the issue? Can we focus on the issue? I don't know. You can talk to him afterwards.
Let me finish my point.
Can you finish your point?
Okay. My point is this. My point is simple. Ronald, control your people.
Carry on. We can hear you.
Ronald must control his people. I'm saying that anybody. And they say we are disruptive.
Okay. We're going to have to...
The ANC...
Okay, wait. We're going to have to make a decision. I think there are people who have to leave.
Don't allow...
I think there are people who must leave there because you're not helping the conversation. It's a waste of money and time. We are not talking about the SABC right now. That's if you want to have that conversation with Mr. Mpofu, I'm sure you can have. For now, there are people, you've seen the pain. Must that woman leave without her questions being answered? Must the woman who raised pain about patriarchy as Lalini leave without her question being answered? Must the chief leave without his questions being answered? It's your choice. So we will have to be quiet and let the questions get answered. Finish your point and we're coming to you next.
Thank you very much. We can't allow people to disrupt the show, otherwise we'll call the white shirts and they must be evicted and beaten up.
You would know about that.
Exactly. No, the point I'm making is simply this, Reddy. When any government comes in, you see the problem, the central problem that everybody is missing here is what the chief was saying there. You cannot have private ownership of land. That notion is so silly that you can't even articulate it, because the land cannot belong to me and belong to my children and their children. The land belongs to all of us.
But how do you manage that?
Because you manage it simply because it's a collective good. It's not something, it's a collective good managed by the state. No, the state, no. The DA doesn't understand. I have to make this point.
Yeah.
The state is not the ANC.
The state is not the ANC.
No,
Okay.
you must give some small education. Sorry, people.
Okay, some education, quickly.
We need small education. The state is not the same thing as the ANC. The state is not the same thing even as the government. The state is all of us. That's why we're going to elections. The DA doesn't understand.
Ask your question. Ernest, ask your question. Sir, now you're fighting amongst yourselves. Ask your question. Okay. All right. This is what's going to happen. I think some of you don't want to be in the debate. And I think we should invite you to please leave if you're not going to be in the debate. Can we hear
appropriation with compensation?
Expropriation.
We've got a problem, and the pain of our people is 1913. Now, certainly, we've been here before 1913. This country was never founded in 1912. I'm sorry, wasn't founded. We all know about JVR, Jan van Riebeeck. We all know about the Cape. Do you know about the Cape Colony before the Western Cape? It was Northern Cape and part of the Eastern Cape. These where the most murders and genocide happened. Do you know that? Do you know that we as the Aboriginal people are not part of this constitution which they deem the most liberal in the world? Do you know that? Do you know that we are still treated as vermin that was declared by proclamation in 1770. We want you to take note of that before you come and claim the country, before you come and claim land. Think of the Aboriginal owners that gave homage to your ancestors. We are hospitable. We gave homage to your ancestors.
We have given you a chance. We've given you a chance.
Listen to your leader.
No, that's enough. Sir, I've given you a chance. Ruth. No, we're giving people who haven't spoken yet. You can have it. Ruth, how do we bring this? I'm coming to you. How do we bring this together now? What do we do with this? Ruth, what do we do with this? Okay, let's hear. Ruth is an academic. She doesn't belong to any political party. Okay, ma'am, I'm going to have to ask you to leave. Absolutely have to ask you to leave.
Well, I think what we're seeing here is how divided we are. How there is not one land question in South Africa, there's a historical question, and people see different elements of it. And actually what it means is that our existing land dispensation is illegitimate in the eyes of most South Africans.
Okay, Agri-SA, what message are you going to take to your members? Because this is very complicated, as you have seen. We're still disputing the numbers. We're still disputing the history. Even when I give you a chance to speak, you're still disrupting. So was that not satisfactory to you? It was. So can we have some peace and quiet, and let's just hear what Ernest has to say. He spoke once. Foreigners speak. We are all Africans.
We have to lift our game. And why I say that is that, yes, we need better planning. We need ground for settlement, ground for agriculture. They're different purposes. Remember, most of South Africa, 65% or more of South Africans are urbanized. They need urban ground in and around urban areas. We need to make that kind of ground available.
How are we going to get it? How are we going to
planning?
How are we going to make it available?
We could have got it long ago. Quite honestly, this government has failed the people in this sense. And I'll say this absolutely. Right? Let me explain myself.
Let him finish.
We spent 10.
Let him finish. No, carry on. The microphone can pick
we
up.
We spent 50 billion rand on land reform over the last decade. That is the Zuma regime. a billion rand on land reform. We have wasted 60 billion plus more on corruption. In other words, we could have already doubled the money available for land reform were we to have utilized it properly. We dropped the ball and we lost the opportunity.
Okay.
Now we must make up for it.
Where's the microphone? Where's the microphone? Sir, what's your comment? Mazibuko, I'm coming to you next. Where's the other microphone? Thank you. Go ahead. I'm coming to you next. Go ahead.
Thank you.
Okay, hold on. Actually, he had the mic. You had the microphone first. Carry on, please. You had the mic. That's a young person there. Hold on. You had the microphone first. Please talk.
Sorry. Hi. Sorry. Basically, for the ANC, I don't have any questions for the ANC because basically you failed us, and I'm not going to give you an opportunity.
Okay.
I'm not going to give them an opportunity. All right. And then I've got.
Okay.
Yes, I've got a question for the EFF. Yeah? The EFF really needs to stop lying to us and be very clear on the stance on land. Yeah? Because
I don't know what you are agreeing with or disagreeing with. You haven't listened to the point.
Let's hear the question.
Okay. Basically, the EFF must answer to us. They are calling for people to occupy land. Wherever they see very beautiful land, they must occupy.
Yeah.
Yes, they are calling for us for expropriation without compensation, whereby they're going to be the custodian of the land. That does not make sense. It's ambiguous. So they need to answer that. Number two, the DA, a question for the DA. In Western Cape, did you guys and why did you refuse to use Tafelberg site in Sea Point to provide people with affordable housing? We need an answer to that.
Okay, the Tafelberg matter, do you want to talk about that? Because it was about sharing the land. It went to court. There were protests. And I think more than anything, the DA is being criticized for demonstrating that it doesn't want to build low-cost housing and therefore doesn't want to bring poor people into those posh areas. Is that a criticism that you accept?
I'll accept the criticism because everybody has got their own.
Carry on.
I accept the criticism because everybody has their own views.
Yeah.
But we in the Western Cape are moving forward with affordable housing in different areas.
But not that one.
I don't have the facts on the Tafelberg case.
Okay, we need a question from this side. Where's the microphone? Okay, where's the microphone? Carry on.
I just want to.
Your question? Yeah, for both of you actually, because he said the ANC has failed the people. No, you must both answer.
My question goes around the financiers.
The financiers.
On what Theo and the other gentleman said, that
Theo's
government buys land at a value. Immediately when it's transferred to government or to beneficiary hands, where is that value gone to that can be used as a collateral for farmers to be able to get a financing?
Okay, the microphone is dead. Your question. You got the question, right? You got the question. Okay. Where's the microphone? Where's the microphone? Bring it on. Bring it on. Can I have the microphone? Theo, you want to speak to that? I'm coming to you. Both of you get ready to answer. Yes. Theo, let Theo speak.
This is a very important question. Which
the questions are directed to, yes?
What happens to that value?
What happens to the value? Listen, I understand that young people must talk. But where I come, okay, absolutely. But here's the thing. Questions are being asked, and you've got to listen to the answer. I'm getting a sense that you want the microphone to ask a question or make a comment, but you don't want the answer that comes from that. There was a question about the value of the land. You don't think that's important? I think it is. Theo, can you please answer?
See, there's a vast difference between land and a farm.
It's dead.
A farm is much more than just a piece of land. On my farm, I'm a farmer from Tsening. On my farm, the current market value of the land is about 10,000 rand per hectare.
Yeah.
But the avocado orchards on it is about 280,000 per hectare. That's what it costs to develop it. For me as a farmer to develop that, I take my land to the banks and I borrow money from them against the security of the land.
Okay.
And then I regain value
Listen to the answer.
From my harvest. We create wealth from that land. And if you're not certain that you will still be around in 5 or 10 years from now, you will not plant a tree. What we've heard today, also on the screenshots, was that we have a number of highly successful beneficiaries of land reform, and I take my hat off to them, who owns their land. And some of them who do not keep on complaining that they do not have access to this financing. And our biggest concern is that should we have expropriation without compensation, or even at reduced compensation, that our banking system will fail. There will be no more private funding for the development of agriculture as a wealth creator.
But that's why we need public, you were saying?
That is why we need banking beyond private sector banking. Public banks and cooperative banks.
Public banks and cooperatives.
Banks.
Okay, let's hear from the women. We haven't heard from women. We've only heard from two. We're coming to you. This mic is dead. It's not going to help you. Sit down. I'll come to you. Come. Okay, let's hear. You don't want to listen to other people, but you want to be listened to when you speak.
Good night. I'm a farmer from Meyerton in Midvaal, under DA municipality.
Right.
I want to ask the lady of Midvaal. DA. Sorry, DA's got, they campaigning, they've got 300 hectares, of which 200 hectares is for women and farmers. 100 hectares is for youth. When they campaign, they want the vote. Since, I don't know, this is the 4th year, they don't give us. I'm a farmer. My plot is full. January to December, I'm planting vegetables, and I've got livestock, cows on a 2.5 hectares. Why can't Midvaal DA give us that place? They say, listen to this. They say if they give us the land, we must develop the land within 6 months. Whatever, if maybe they give me 10 hectares now for me to expand for my animals, and I fail because I don't have money. I make a borehole. Number one, how much is a borehole? I don't have any sponsors. When you go to land bank, they put red tapes. At the end of the day, whatever you have done, if within 6 months, they'll come and monitor you on that farm. They want bank statement. They want
put it in front of your mouth.
What did you do? And if you didn't manage to make money, the DA is taking that farm away. You won't get anything. It's what they're doing. It's what they're doing to us. My heart is painful. That's why I come here for DA. Yes, and for my things, for my cows and everything.
Let her answer. Mewa DA, let her answer and the investor. Hold on. Sorry, darling, sorry. Okay, you speak. Carry on speaking. Okay, I'm finding it. Did you hear the pain there? You don't think it deserves an answer. I must just move the microphone to the next person without addressing that. There's a question for the DA. Look, these are people's lives. There's a question for the DA. DA, can you answer that? And we also need to, and part of your question was about the bankers and the investors and the red tape there. We have to talk about that as well. Is there somebody from the investor side? Naidu, where are you sitting? There, I'm coming to you next. Please answer the question, yeah?
Rigi, what I want to do is to talk to the lady when we finish. She must come
you can
to me
answer part of the question.
Yes, because I don't have
Okay, here's the thing. Okay, I'm speaking to her. Okay, Tembe, I understand that you don't. I'm not going to anybody if there's this much noise. But I'm challenging her on that. Sit down, please. Sit down. Okay. Hold on. I understand. No. I need to challenge you on something. I understand that you cannot deal with a specific case. I understand that.
Yes.
But the issues that we've heard on the big debate today, there's a part of it that's personal and a part of it that's political. It's an intersection of the personal and the political. So if the DA has a particular policy in a particular area, you don't really need to know the granular details of her life, the ups and downs. Your policy in Midvaal.
Ridi, I need to know, is it a commonage? Is it commonage land? Is it land she got from Land Affairs in the past? What is it exactly? So that we can talk.
Okay. So the question is not answered.
That's a failed politician.
We haven't finished answering. No. But she raised the question about investors. You coming next. You coming next. Okay. Carry on speaking. The microphone can pick you up. So she's talking about the red tape when they approach investors. Okay? Okay, wait. Okay. No, I'm not going to acknowledge you. Okay. There are two questions that were asked there. There were two questions that were asked. There was accountability being sought from a political party. Ma'am, there was accountability being sought from a political party that hasn't answered. And that's shameful, I think. Secondly, another issue that is keeping Mama awake is the red tape at the investment level, bank level. Unless you're saying we shouldn't give her that answer, then you can carry on screaming at the top of your voice. If you're saying that part is not important, so that wasn't answered, there's nothing we can do about it. I'm asking, from an investment point of view, you've heard, it's not the first story that we've heard, the red tape, the lack of access, and so on. What ideas and advice do you give?
First, I think you have to look at this issue from a moral standpoint. Do you support that we should have equal opportunities for people? Land and property, because the expropriation bill is about property, of which land is just one subset. Buildings are, water rights are, intangible assets, they're all property, right? Historical redress is one point, but giving people access to capital is a very important second point. Without that capital, this capital in the form of land and property, you don't really have ability to be economically mobile.
But we know these things. Why are they not being done?
So the expropriation bill sets out a process for a claimant to get their land, and that process is extraordinarily complex. If you're a sophisticated urbanite with means, running that gamut is not going to be easy.
You see, with means.
So if you don't have means, right? First, just understanding who the expropriating authority is, because the bill says Department of Public Works, but it may be a municipality, it may be another organ of state. Finding who to speak to, that's the first challenge. Compiling a claim against a particular property, all of these things, finding out that is challenging. I don't think it's possible.
Okay, finish your point. Let him finish his point.
Under this bill, as it stands, I don't think it's possible for expropriation without compensation to take place. The bill has to change.
Okay, thank you very much. We're going to hear from one young person on this side, and then we're moving on to the other area. Yeah, what's your comment?
Thank you, Reddy. I'm Ocho Murisakwana from FUSA, Farmers United South Africa. We, as Farmers United South Africa, our position on land reforms, we don't agree with this funny wording and these funny terms, this funny playing with English. We hear that the EFF says land expropriation without compensation, the ANC eat your cake and what, the DA nothing. But what we are saying is we want land restitution, and it must not be coupled with some funny wording to lose the message as time goes. Because once you talk about expropriation, you are just talking for the public benefit.
Put the mic.
Now it seems as if we are taking land of white people from white people for the public benefit. What's that? Now, when you're saying land restitution, you mean that you are restoring and returning stolen land. So EFF, we love you. We see how you fight. But be clear in the wording, please. Because once you're not clear in the wording, you are giving these people these people that have visited here, you are giving them an opportunity to defend themselves. And that's why we don't agree. And then finally, on the banking, banks, understand this thing. You cannot ask collateral from black farmers. You are responsible for the development or the development of stolen land. You develop stolen land, apartheid land. So now you must not ask for collateral. And
okay,
now
time. I've given you a chance. I've given you a chance. I think the ANC must speak here. I mean, Ronald, there's a lot that was said there. You can. So you want to speak, but you don't want to hear other people. I gave you a chance. I'm coming to you. The answer. Okay. From who? Wait. I'm coming to you. But I do think that the ANC must also answer, because you started off by saying that you're not interested in them. That's fine. But hold on. There's a lot that was said in that commentary. But one of the things that come up that speak to your manifesto and what the president is saying to investors and the international community and so on, that when you want to provide for people like that, but then you're telling the investors that you're not going to rattle the cage, really. I don't think we are clear this evening how exactly you're going to do it. I don't think we're clear this evening whose interests are you promoting as the ANC? Is it in your mind that expropriation without compensation can happen and keep the landowner happy, I don't know how, and keep the landless person happy? Can that happen? They seem mutually exclusive to me.
No, we will be able to give land to black South Africans. We've already
Carry on, the mic is on.
As you are playing the examples, in the house there are people who have given land. And we are going to continue. We accept that there have been failures, but there have been successes that are there. And it's clear that they are there. We will be able to resolve the land question through the expropriation bill and the redistribution that is going to be targeted to youth, women, and the people who need it in urban and rural areas.
What do you say about the Khoisan who says they're not on your radar?
Including the Khoisan. Among the Khoisan, the youth and women, we've already put a bill that governs the issues of the Khoisans. We're going to address their challenges. But the issue that we want to be able to clarify is that if we just wake up and nationalize the land, what it means is that we're also going to dispossess the black people who have already given land. We're also going to dispossess all of them. So it's important that it's done in a targeted way that enables us to address the imbalances of the past.
Why are you shaking
No, it must be done in a targeted way so that we're able to address the imbalances of the past. Yeah, it will. But because we'll take
that's a caricature. That's a caricature.
Of many people. If we just nationalize.
Now, what it means, if what Ronald is saying is true, it means the ANC is schizophrenic, because what they have done with mineral rights, for example, they have given.
It must be targeted.
Can I answer? I'm saying that with mineral rights, the ownership. The ownership of the minerals currently rests in the state. The ownership of water, all water in South Africa, currently rests in the state.
But
so why is he saying giving land to the state is dispossession?
There has not been practical transformation in those sectors.
But it's not dispossession. You can't say it's dispossession. I mean,
we must be practical.
What kind of?
We must be practical.
Okay, Mazibuko, you disagree. Carry on speaking. You disagree.
The EFF.
We must be practical.
The examples given by the EFF are excellent.
You disagree? Yeah.
I disagree with the ANC. The examples given by the EFF are excellent. The question is that land is a public good.
Yes.
The state can own and administer those rights, short-term leases, long-term leases with secure rights. It's important that we protect the land forever. Because if we hand it over to private individuals, they can sell it on to others who may pollute the land, to others who may speculate on the land. That's going to be a problem.
Okay. Can I just ask that we remove some people from studio? We can't carry on with the big debate this way, because it's very important that you listen when somebody speaks, and even when an answer is unsatisfactory, it's still an answer. The answer is unsatisfactory. That's the conclusion. So he didn't, and that's what you must work with that now. Okay, we have a question there. We have a question. Errol, I want you to come in here because you are farming successfully. You can say A again. You are farming successfully, and you've heard all these contestations. And are you overwhelmed by the extent of the problem in our country? Do you see the light at the end of the tunnel? Just think about it for a moment. Let's get a question from a young person.
Lady, it is very unfortunate.
Carry on. We can pick you up if
today
you want.
we have old people addressing new problems. The fact still remains. Wait, please, can you give me a chance, sir? The issue now is ready. By 2036, there will be 80% people moving into urban areas. We're not addressing issues there. Firstly, how are we going to ensure that we do not continue with the same apartheid method of housing where people are still being given houses in the outskirts? Why aren't we moving into the inner city and ensuring that people are getting
Urban
housing
land.
that is affordable?
Okay, so
Let
that's
us
a
speak
different
solutions.
Okay? Let's take a few comments back. Let's take a few comments back to back. I'm coming to you. Please speak.
Okay, firstly, I just want to say that we need to look at the youth. Future generations need the land. We haven't focused on the youth in this debate, which is a major problem. Right. Now, another thing, we're all attacking ANC saying we've given up hope in them. Have we taken into consideration that we've had the revitalization of land? Answering your question. Another thing, right? We support land expropriation without compensation to introduce a new generation of young African women farmers. Right. So we have, this whole night we've been attacking women on this floor. We've been attacking women. Right? We've been attacking our female speakers because they're not powerful enough. So let's take into account that. Our plan includes women, includes the marginalized minorities such as black.
Okay.
So can we please conclude to that point?
Okay. I can... No. We're going there. I can assure you, I will not preside over any debate that attacks women. We have not attacked women, but I do think that there are a lot of questions that affect women that have not been addressed, that have not been answered. And I am going to come back to Contralesa in a moment. Ask your question.
I read it, and the audience, I have a solution. Talk does not cook a rice. People have been talking.
Okay, you're going to miss this wonderful solution if you don't listen. You want to speak? Okay.
I have a solution on behalf of ADASA, Agro Dealers Association of South Africa.
Okay.
The biggest problem here is not about whether we cannot farm or we can farm, but the inputs, the rising input costs and the cartel in the inputs industry is killing this. For every billion department give out for Litsima, Fetsatala, you name it, Pakistan, 70% is going to the inputs. Just 10% or 15% remain with the farmer. And guess what? There is also brown envelope moving around in that. So the biggest stumbling block in land reform is the inputs. I've got an experience. I'm trying to break into the fertilizer industry. I have a company. But guess what happened? The people who are supposed to do due diligence is the IDC, which owns Fosco 60%. So I have to take my application to be reviewed by IDC, who are also Fosco, who are my rivals. So the biggest challenge here is we need to break the barrier. Break the barrier.
Hold on. Hold on, Mami Kiakwa. Yeah, I'm coming. Yes, please speak.
Okay.
Just carry on.
I just want to address...
No, Kubua Abuti Ole, and then you, and when you finish, you pass the microphone here. I'm coming to you as well. Carry on, please. And then here, okay. Okay, speak, Papa, speak. Don't look at me.
I'd like to address
just
two
speak.
things that I think haven't been addressed
We can't
tonight.
hear you. Speak.
I would love to address two things that I don't think we've addressed tonight. Number one, we're talking about land reform in terms of farming. But in terms of the urban areas, in terms of economic activity in the townships, no one has addressed that like the Gauteng government has done with the Township Economy Revitalization Program, with land identified to give to black businesses to produce, to capture value chains in the economy. Those are the things we should look at, because in the long term, we want to get black people involved in the mainstream economy as owners, as asset builders, as producers. So it's not just about farming. We must look at the value chain economically of different sectors and how we get black people in. And we are doing that in Gauteng at the moment. Thank you.
Okay.
I've got a question for ANC.
Okay. Speak up, ma'am.
I've got a question for ANC.
Okay, so did you hear that? She's got a question for the ANC. So when the ANC is
ANC.
answering,
The ANC, in 1994, they promised us that we've got to have 30% of the land. Now it's 25 years later. Black people still have less than 10% of the land. I just want to know, is there anything else that they can promise that we can trust from them? Because they have already failed. Now
Okay,
they must
ANC.
just say why.
Ronald, you can answer. Let the ANC answer. Let the ANC answer.
I have
Hold on, Mama. Let the ANC answer, then we come to you. Yes?
I have already said that there have been failures in land reform and we accept it.
Yeah.
We have learned from those mistakes and we know that the reality is that the reality of the land reform program is that it was market driven. We have misinterpreted the constitution. The principle of just and equitable will enable us to fast track the process of land reform. And now with the new phase of land reform, putting redistribution bill, the expropriation bill and various legislation, including competent officials, we will be able to run the program successfully. And from those experiences, there's no government in the world. No. There's no government in the world that was born with all solutions.
Okay. All right.
There's no government in the world.
Speak.
That is, it was born with everything. We are failing with one and Johannesburg.
Where's the red microphone here?
Can we all listen to this? I hear all these bombastic words here that none of the farmers do understand them. I'm 14 years in this journey of agriculture. I only got a farm after 9 years, leasing this working space from other farmers. I want to put this very clearly, it's out of my heart. I'm happy, Ronald, you agree that you failed us. Is there any of you political parties that are here that you are going not to fail like what ANC did to us? Firstly, very quickly,
Okay, very
you will
quickly now.
agree that
40
you won't
seconds.
fail, and
40
it's not
seconds.
true. Number one, the very land that we are given, we are battling with the lease agreements. That we need the lease agreement. Number two, the very banks, financial institutions, investors that are here, when they call workshops, we attend the workshops, they promise that small farmers, emerging farmers, black farmers, they are not going to be asked the collateral. But when you go to the institutions, they do ask for collateral. The very land bank that has to service us, currently they've been given those billions. Remember, the president spoke about them. And when you go there for that granted funding, what is it? Blended funding. They ask for collateral.
Yes.
So who's going to help us?
Thank you very
Don't
much.
play Karuna. Please, all of you here.
Ruth, I think you must address, because you're not a politician. You are studying this. This is your work. This is your research. We're hearing that over and over again. They ask us for collateral. How do we go around that?
Well, I think that the state has actually been quite inconsistent.
Let Ruth speak.
I think that we need to think about what kind of land rights people should have across different parts of South Africa. We've always had a racial hierarchy. White people had private tenure, other people had PTOs. You know, we've still got this. So land reform is about overcoming the inequalities, spatial apartheid in the cities. It's about overcoming it between commercial farms and the communal areas. But also we must overcome this inequality in what kind of rights people have. Now in restitution, when people are claiming back their land, they get private title. But now in the redistribution program, when government is buying up land and allocating it, It's meant to be providing long-term leases, but the state has very limited capacity. So in many cases, people are left with no documents, and the financial institutions will not talk to them. So I think that as we rethink how to get the land, expropriation or whatever methods, compensation or not, we must also ask these questions about what kind of tenure and who it should be for. And finally, I think one of the big constraints on our debate, I think, is that we're always looking at how we're going to do it rather than agreeing what would be the end point. If land reform were to succeed, if in 10, 20 years land reform were to be a success, how would our rural areas look different? Would we just replace some white commercial farmers with some black commercial farmers and keep the same farm workers and the same labor relations? Or are we talking about changing the system? How would our cities look different? So I think we need to talk about what the vision is for land reform, and not just the mechanism.
I want to hear from you, your members. Your members. Hold on. Your members. How does land restitution and distribution look like to them? What conversations are you having?
Yes, our members see land restitution as a disaster zone.
Hold on, your members.
And I'll tell you why. Is because all the restitution projects have failed. The only ones that have actually succeeded are where commercial farmers have gone in and assisted the restitution beneficiaries and made them into a commercial farming enterprise. And there's half the answer you're looking for. We need to actually shepherd the skills and knowledge of the commercial farmers into the other farming sectors in order to create farmers that are actually sustainable.
Quickly.
All over the country it's happening.
Carry on talking. We can pick you up.
Listening in the debate.
We can pick you up.
And I think at the moment it's challenging those of us who are tasked with the amendment of the Constitution. We've already heard that on one hand, there's a proposal that the state must be the one that owns. You have got communities who already have land in their own right and capacity who are actually saying no. You also have got the issues that women are raising that are saying in terms of rural land, currently they don't have the access. You have the First Nation who are saying you have not factored us in. Yes, it is important therefore that as we are going to this amendment of the Constitution, as there is a cry, we do need the various views so that we can address this challenge.
You are nodding, Errol. Your word of advice, you are a successful farmer. What do you say? Very quickly, carry on.
I think it is to do with the model.
It's to do with the model.
With the model.
Here's a successful farmer and you don't want to hear him.
We need a single, cohesive approach to this problem. I've got a lot to ask and a lot to say, but there's one particular thing that came out from the ladies at the back, which is very touching, and it's actually the truth, and I want to ride on it. Even though, as in my case, land has been given by government to me, there's been a recap and whatever, even though I've got 30-year long-term lease, the banks are inaccessible to us.
It's a lease.
It's a lease. They don't want to talk to us with grant funding, anything of the sort. We recently saw National Treasury in the Jobs Fund situation. The potential was there for grant funding to come for all farmers, black farmers, emerging farmers, whatever name we want to call it. It is stopped. It is diverted to blending. You have to have this in order to get that. No one wants to talk to us. Okay. And it leaves a lot of strain on those farms. And some of those farms, unfortunately, they will fail. Some of those projects will fail unless the banks open up. We are concluding
now, Mazibuko. I'm going to give you the last word. How do we bring it all together?
As Ruth has said, we need a very clear vision of a transformed countryside. In my view, the state has a central role to play in that regard. Over and above that, ordinary landless people have a central role to play. The state must listen to landless people. But also, as we do that, we must not ever undermine the fact that the land we must have custodianship and stewardship for the future, not just for today.
We'll leave it on that positive note. That's the land debate. Thank you for watching The Big Debate. coming. I don't control the channel time.